Starting on the hands and knees, knees under the hips, heel of the hands under the shoulders. Take a breath in, lift up the head, lift up the bum, drop the belly down. Take a breath out, fold everything back in, chin to chest, tailbone tucks, centre of the spine lifts. Take it back to the opposite way, belly drops, head lifts, tailbone lifts. Take it back into that cat position, centre of the spine lifts and everything else tucks. Come back to central space. Breath in, raise the right hand, turn up and twist to the right. Thread the right hand in between the left hand, left knee and bring the right ear to the mat. Breath in, raise that right hand back up to the ceiling. Breath out and thread. Breath in and raise. Breath out, release the right hand to meet the left. Same on the left side, left hand lifts. Left hand threads on the out breath. Left hand lifts and then threads on the out breath. Left hand lifts, then bring that left hand back to meet the right. Turn the body towards that right foot, keeping the hips neutral, lateral flexion of the waist. Come back to centre, turn to gaze to that left foot, hips stay neutral, creasing on the left side, stretching the right side. One more time, both sides, just warming up that spine before we start to move. Back to centre, left side, and back to centre. So coming down onto the forearms, fingers nice and wide, train track arms, both arms in line with each other. Step both feet back into that forearm plank position and think about pushing into those forearms. Elbows are stacking underneath the shoulders. Hold it in this forearm plank just for a couple of breaths. Try and feel like you're pushing that chest cavity into that space between the shoulder blades, pushing the heels back, crown forward. Then bring the hands to interlace in front of you. Push into the forearms a little more as you lift up the hips, send the gaze back to the toes and start to walk those feet a little further forward towards those elbows, bringing ourselves into dolphin. So the hips are high, we've got that A-shaped position, but rather than down dog being on the hands, we're down on those forearms for dolphin. On your out breath, bring those knees to hover off the mat. On your in-breath, lift the hips and squeeze the heels back. 3 more of those. Bring the knees down to a hover. Then lift the hips, squeeze the heels back. 2 more. Bring the knees to a hover. Keep pushing into those forearms, chest pushing back. 1 more. Bring the knees to a hover. Lift the hips and squeeze those heels back. Step the feet back to where that plank position would be. Release the hands, find that forearm plank just for a breath. And then drop down with the hips, untuck the toes. Just take it into a little back bend, just relax through the shoulders and lift up through the chest. Easy breaths in, long breaths out. Push those hips into the mat so we're not pinching into those lower backs. Finding our way back into that forearm plank again. So tucking the toes under, engaging through the glutes and the belly as we lift those hips back to that plank position on the forearms, holding it in that forearm plank for a couple of breaths. So feel like everything is in one long line from the crown of the head to the heels. Then find an interlace of the fingers again, push into those forearms, start to lift up through the hips, the gaze back towards the toes. Walk the feet in a little further. Trying to encourage those heels towards the mat, but they don't need to reach. Push that chest back, push into those forearms. Put your weight into your left foot, raise your right leg up. Hold it there, squeeze the left heel a little closer to the floor. Maybe point through the right toes. 1 more breath in this space, keep pushing strong into those arms. Release that right foot down to meet the left. Then put the right weight into the right foot as you raise the left leg. Point through the left toes, squeeze the right heel down towards the floor. Strongly pushing into those arms to support those shoulders, hips stay nice and square. Then release that left foot back down to meet the right. Step both feet back into a space of plank. Release the hands. Let the hands come out like train tracks. Hold it in forearm plank just for a couple of breaths. Then release those hips down. Lift up through the chest. Relax through the shoulders. Just taking a moment in Sphinx pose. Elbows underneath the shoulders. Just taking it into that little back bend. And then bring those hands back to interlace. Tuck the toes under. Lift up the hips all the way to our dolphin. Step the feet forward. Find that dolphin space. A-shaped position onto the forearms. So we're going to do a dip with the knees and then a push-up dolphin. On your out-breath, let the knees come down to a hover. On the in-breath, lift the hips, squeeze the heels back. On your out-breath, bring that chin over the hands. In-breath, lift back up. Out-breath, let the knees come to a hover. In-breath, lift, squeeze the heels back. Out-breath, bring that chin over the hands. In-breath, back up to dolphin. One more in both places. Bring those knees to a hover. Lift up the hips, squeeze the heels back. Bring the chin over the hands, push up dolphin. Push into those forearms, lift the hips back. Step both feet back into that plank position. Release the hands, train tracks with the forearms. Hold it in this space, just for another breath. And then release the hips down and lift up through the chest. Untuck the toes, push the hips into the mat. Just finding that Sphinx position, back bend, just releasing the tension from the shoulders. So coming back into forearm plank, but interlace the fingers first, tuck the toes under, lift up the hips, and then send the hips high. Walk the feet forward, find that dolphin space. So we're going to include all three things here. Breath in, raise the right leg up to the ceiling, left heel squeeze into the floor. Breath out, bring that right foot to meet the left. Breath in, lift the left leg. Breath out, bring that left foot to meet the right. Your next out breath, let the knees come to a dip. In breath, lift the hips, squeeze the heels back. Out breath, bring the chin over the hands. Breath in, lift back, forearm plank. Breath in, right leg lifts. Breath out, bring it back to meet the left. Breath in, left leg lifts. Breath out, left leg to meet the right. Your next breath out, dip with the knees. In breath, lift, squeeze the heels back. Out breath, dip with the chin. In breath, lift, squeeze the heels back. Come down onto the knees, untuck the toes. Bring the chest to the thighs, bring the hands down by the sides of the body, just taking it into that space of a closed leg child's pose. Just relaxing through the shoulders, making that space around the back of those shoulder blades. Then coming up onto the knees, bringing the hips over the knees, shoulders over the hips, just widen the knees a little more to make them hip width apart, tops of the feet flat. Bring the hands to the lower back, little fingertips to touch. We'll take it into a little back bend because as we've been doing lots of dolphin in forward bends. So push the hips forward, lift up through the ribs, lift up through the chest, lift up through the gaze. Take that back bend, hold it in that space for a couple of breaths. Engage through the glutes, push forward with the hips. Squeeze those shoulder blades together to bring those elbows a little closer to each other. Hold it there, one more breath. And then bring those shoulders back over the hips. Release the hands down by the sides. Just give those Body's a little rotation. And then bring those seats back to the feet. Bring the hands onto the heels, tops of the heads onto the mat. And just stretching through those backs, lift up with the hips, hold on to the heels, stretching through those shoulder sockets as you hold the hands on the heels, which causes a little traction through those shoulders. Try and feather light touch through the head. One more breath here. And then release those bums to the heels, shoulders back over the hips. Bring the hands to the chest. Take a deep breath in. Long breath out. Namaste.